Hello and welcome to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Doc has the day off, but never fear. I'm Sharon Reed alongside Yas and Aaliyah Khan. Back together again, Yas. Happy New Year. Hope you had a wonderful time off. I know we've seen each other, but I just wanted to say that in front of everyone. I love being on
Thank you
with
very
you.
much. Happy New Year to you too, Sharon, and to all of our viewers. It's good to be back on with you. Always happy to be here.
Yeah, and I know that you had some weather issues where you are, so you don't look
Yeah.
any worse for the wear, so it must be okay, right?
Yeah, it turned out to be okay. We had, at any time the temperature drops below freezing here in Texas, we get all these warnings about maybe the power grid will fail again because our governor hasn't done anything to fix it. So it's always a little
Greg Abbott.
tenuous. We were, kind of prepping as if a hurricane was coming, stocking up on batteries and water and things like that. But it turned out to be okay. So I just had a day off yesterday.
All right. Well, I hope that things are better the next go round with storms, but
We will
as you
see.
said,
Yeah.
Greg Abbott is your governor. So just make sure plenty of water, bread, eggs, you know the deal. We'll begin with this one. Black man who spent 16 years in prison after giving a false confession. It's like these stories over and over again. It's the same thing on repeat. This man spent 16 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. His face there, mugshot. Black man who spent 16 years in prison after giving false confession in murder of a New York millionaire is vindicated as the district attorney announces new suspects in the case. Prosecutors in Westchester County, just north of New York City, announced the identification of two new suspects in the 1996 double murder of an upstate millionaire and his home health aide. Now, the case has endured 5 trials, an overturned conviction, decades of unanswered questions, while the wrong man spent more than a decade and a half in prison. And a Black Star giving us some of the details here. Now, Westchester District Attorney Miriam Roca did not name the suspects, but said they are believed to have targeted Archie Harris, a millionaire with a $2 million estate, in a brutal attack inside Harris's Eastchester mansion nearly 3 decades ago. Roca stated that the motives of the suspects and any connection to the victims are still under investigation, while firmly asserting the innocence of Sul Win Days, the man previously charged and convicted in the case. Now, an extensive and ongoing investigation was undertaken by my conviction review unit following a request in 2023, has identified 2 individuals involved in the murders of Archie Harris and Betty Ramcharan. No connection to Sul Win Days, who was previously charged, Roca said, according to the New York Post. Why was he at the center of the investigation, you might be wondering? Well, Sul Win Days, Mount Vernon resident, emerged as an early suspect after Archie Harris, his home health aide, Betty Ramcharan, and Harris's dog were discovered brutally beaten and stabbed to death on November 21st, 1996. Days' mother, Stella Davis, previously worked as Harris's health care aide, and just months before the murders had filed a sexual abuse complaint against the 79-year-old millionaire in July 1996, eventually putting Sul Win Days at the center of the investigation. Days' involvement began February 15, 2001, 5 years after the incident, when Mount Vernon police arrested him for violating an order of protection by contacting his ex-girlfriend. What followed was a grueling interrogation, culminating in a confession only partially captured on video. Seen that before, too. Final 75 minutes, the sole portion recorded, became a focal point for the defense, which argued detectives fed Days critical details about the crime. The confession, lacking any physical evidence to corroborate it, nevertheless became the prosecution's centerpiece. Nonetheless, he was convicted of second-degree murder in April 2004, sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. But the conviction was overturned on December 31st, 2009. Days' third trial ended in a hung jury in March 2011. But a fourth trial resulted in a conviction 7 months later with another 50 years to life sentence. So here you have the state with this dubious confession, this partially recorded situation, say, you know what, we missed the mark on the first one, the second one, the third one, but the fourth time's a charm. Yep, he's going away, 50 years to life. And people wonder how we get into these circumstances. However, that conviction was overturned by a state appellate court, leading to a fifth trial. They're just going to keep going. In 2017, where Days was acquitted on all charges. Days spent a total of 16 consecutive years in prison before his exoneration, leaving the case cold once again. His lawyer, Glenn Garber, thinks it's high time his client's name is cleared. On Monday, prosecutors revealed the identification of new suspects, but offered no additional details. So with this one, Yaz, this is no mystery. I mean, we don't know who actually committed the crime, so that part perhaps. But look what the system went through. Look how many hurdles that they jumped over just to be able to convict this Black man. Mm-hmm. Look at the interrogation. Look at why did he spend 16 consecutive years when this thing was overturned and a hung jury? I mean, a lot of people would say, I want to be out. I want bail while I'm waiting for the next trial. He's 16 years. And yet here we have a district attorney who I suppose we're supposed to praise with this conviction review unit that we wouldn't need if you didn't do dirty things in the first place. I just don't want to praise the system at all. You stole 16 years, and yes, his attorney, Mr. Days' attorney, is right. It's time to clear his name. It's also time to pay him and make sure this never happens again. I'm just so sick of these kinds of stories. What say you?
Well, you said it, right? They stole 16 years from this man, right? And that is an astronomical amount of time. Just wrap your head around 16 years of your own life and how much you got done, how much you changed as a person, the things that you saw, the people that you met, all these things that can happen within the span of 16 years. It is crazy to take that from somebody, especially when they did nothing to have deserved to, have that time taken from them. But you also said at the top of the story that it feels like we just keep covering these same stories over and over and over again. And it's so true and it's so frustrating. I think so many people get into this kind of work, what me and you are doing here, Sharon, because, we want to raise awareness for certain things happening in the world. And part of the reasoning behind that is that some part of you believes deep down that if only these things were out in the open, if only people knew that these things were happening, that someone somewhere with some modicum of power or authority would do something to make sure that these things don't keep happening. But unfortunately, that's really not the reality that we live in at all, right? These things keep happening. We keep reporting on them. People keep getting outraged and then nothing happens. Things inevitably fizzle, really, because no one can maintain that level of outrage for so many different things for an extended period of time while we're all also just trying to live our lives. So we're stuck in this nightmare loop. And it's the same every time we cover stories like this. It's even more obvious with something like mass shootings, right? The news is reported, people get outraged. Public and political officials offer their thoughts and prayers, and they talk about how sad it all is, as if they can't do anything about it. And then they just wait out the news cycle, and then they bide their time until people move on. Something about this story that's particularly interesting, though, is what you were talking about as far as like they went through hoops just to make sure that this guy was convicted of a crime that he did not commit. It feels very inefficient. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. If there's anything that people working in government seem to actually care about, it's being more efficient as far as like their own time not being wasted. Yeah. But I say that, but people can be very vindictive. And they can be racist, they can be classist, they can be all these different things, have all these different motivators that are so much stronger that they would rather waste their own time on something like this just because they feel like it.
Yeah, and then I go to the other part of this. Here you have a millionaire who is brutally murdered as health aide, but the millionaire is what the headlines were all about in Westchester County. Very exclusive, rich area in the country, one of the most expensive to exist in. And I happen to believe, because I know it to be true, and I've lived long enough at this point, that you better nab somebody for this guy's murder, and a Black man will do just fine. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. So what you have here is a community, if we're to believe the prosecutor this time, or district attorney, you have a community that was no less safe. They were still in danger if these brutal killer or killers were running around. And I just want to know more about the prosecutor who looked at this ridiculous confession. Okay, I think we know what went on here. He didn't do it. You forced this lie out of his mouth through God knows what kinds of means. I want to know where that prosecutor who accepted this and said, we're going to go for it. I want to know where the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth is. I want to know who these detectives are and where are they today? And I want a review of all of their cases. Do you think that's too much to ask for? Because I think all of what they've done should be under suspicion now.
Yeah, I mean, the prosecutor, he gets paid either way. The detectives, they got paid for whatever work that they did, whether or not it was good or bad work.
Yeah.
And whether or not it creates more work for different people somewhere else down the line, that's not their problem anymore, right? But you're right, there always has to be some kind of fall guy. Whenever something happens, especially something very public, like a millionaire being murdered, people need to see that there was some kind of justice that was done. And unfortunately, if you choose a minority, specifically a Black person, and say that's the guy who did it, most people in the country, I don't want to be too on the nose, but maybe in certain parts
Sure.
of the country more than others, most people in those areas, they're not going to question it too much. They'll say, oh, that's who it was. And then they'll
Yep.
move on, right? It'll get things out of the headlines. And, you wonder, why did these people become detectives or prosecutors in the first place if they were just going to not do the job? But, a lot of people are in jobs that they're not actually working.
Yeah. And it's political, right? I can see, and I'm not disparaging this mayor, I don't know, but think about it. A politician who has people up in arms, this elderly millionaire who they've known their whole lives is murdered. You better bring me somebody. And so they do, right? You said they get paid either way, but political pressure is a hell of a drug. It's something that they have to latch onto if they want to advance. And that's partially what's wrong with this society. And that leads us into this next one, believe it or not. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about a potential child abuse case. And he said, well, I don't know why the mother wouldn't just call DFACS, Department of Children and Family Services, and report this. And I offered my take as a reporter for so many years. Because people are right to not believe in some of our institutions because they are overstretched, stressed, and sometimes they just don't do what they're set out, designed to do. And children end up back in the same situation, and perhaps the reporter, the mother in this instance, is then the target. That's why this mother didn't report it, even though she seemed to have evidence and grounds, because she knew what would be blowing back on her would be even worse. So let's go here to Ohio. A couple now sentenced for torturing adopted children in a dungeon. How does that go on for so long? They've finally been sentenced now. The Ohio couple sentenced for torturing their adopted children in a dungeon after prosecutors revealed the horror, medieval-like abuse, starvation, psychological torment. And then you see the pictures here. Who can stomach these two? You won't be able to once I tell you more about this. Ohio couple was sentenced last Friday after they accepted plea deals on charges including child endangerment, felonious assault, kidnapping. Charles Edmondson, age 64, is going to serve a minimum of 15 years in prison. Not enough. His wife, Matthew, will spend at least the next 13 years behind bars. Prosecutors moved to dismiss another 48 counts against Charles Edmondson, 44 additional counts against Matthew Edmondson as part of the deal. I just hate the word deal when we're talking about this abuse of children. Remember, children, often so many seniors, members of that population, they don't have the ability to push back often. Children don't have the ability at all. So I hate this deal. Perhaps it was to spare the children testifying and the like. Perhaps. And a Black Star giving us some of these horrific details. The adoptive mother made a statement in court. Your Honor, I'm here in front of you because I believe God has a purpose for me, Matthew Edmondson said Friday. No, it's taken a lot of mistakes to be here, and I'm now seeing the bigger picture. I want to end the negative cycle. I want my sons to receive psychological and emotional healing. I'm truly sorry. Now, if I were advising her, which I wouldn't be her attorney, but if she asked before I told her off and hung up on her, I would say, just stick with I'm sorry. You don't need to wish anything for your son, your children, because you are what put them in this place. You just need to say sorry. And I hope one day God will forgive me, if that's what you believe in. This whole manufactured thing to get less time is sick to me. Bailey Edmondson, biological son of the couple, was also sentenced Friday, receiving 2 years probation after pleading guilty to 3 misdemeanor counts of child endangering, according to the Cincinnati Enquirer. The 5 adopted sons, 4 of which had special needs, endured a nightmarish existence, often being deprived of food and water. Investigators indicted the couple in June following a separate probe into Charles Edmondson, which found him guilty of sexually assaulting another of his adopted sons, an adult at the time. Special needs sons. Claremont County Prosecuting Attorney Mark J. Takul previously said investigators found more evidence of severe mental and physical abuse that led to additional indictments against the Edmondsons. Prosecutors outlined the various punishments they endured in an August court filing. They were often placed in a basement room, naked with nothing but a steel frame bunk bed, usually without a mattress or blanket. They'd usually be kept there all night, clinging to each other for warmth. Deal. These people got a deal? 15 years minimum, 13 years for her? We're not safe if they ever get out. The videos of these undernourished, naked children huddled up in a locked room in the basement on the stone-cold basement floor like a pile of puppies trying to stay together to keep warm are nothing short of gut-wrenching, Takul said in a statement in June. Photos from surveillance cameras installed in the home showed one of the children tied to a bed in the basement. They had limited access to water, and food was often denied them as punishment. Children often complained of being hungry. One was found scavenging food out of the trash at school. Another told school officials that urine and feces were rubbed into his eyes as a punishment. Prosecutors said the boys, 4 of whom have a genetic condition associated with intellectual and developmental issues, were under constant video surveillance throughout the house, according to the Cincinnati Enquirer. The abuse started when the youngest boys were about 3 years old and continued for more than 5 years. The brothers were 13, 11, and 8 years old. Triplets were removed from the Edmondsons' home in February, 5 years after they were adopted. Prosecutors allege the abuse started the summer before that, July 2018, when the couple were fostering the boys. Each will require years, if not a lifetime, of psychiatric treatment, according to prosecutors, as in their filings. So they were under near constant surveillance. The prosecutor says, yes, it was gut-wrenching to look at some of the videos, I mean, there's a lot of detail here, okay? There's a lot of detail. Something about telling school people who worked at the school, presumably teachers, administrators, about horrific things. And yet this went on for so long, and there's a plea deal?
Yeah.
They should never be out again. We're not safe.
I mean, like there is nothing worse than deliberately, intentionally abusing children, especially for an extended period of time, knowing what you're doing. What they called it medieval like abuse, and it's absolutely abhorrent. The details were hard to listen to. I can't imagine what it must have been like to watch the video or to hear testimony from these people. You know what else is frustrating about this is that there's so many couples or people out there who would love to have a child, can't for whatever reason. So they pursue adoption pathways only to find that they're up against so many bureaucratic roadblocks, people who would otherwise be great parents, but on paper, for whatever reason, they're deemed not fit. Meanwhile, these people get to adopt children. And I don't know how these adoptions came to be, but it is so unspeakably unfortunate for these children. And her statement that she was there in front of the judge because she believed that God had a purpose for her and she wanted to end the cycle of negativity. She sees a bigger picture, blah, blah, blah. Okay, look, we're all on a healing journey. We all have to figure out this life and why we're here and what is the meaning of any of it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get that, right? But that doesn't mean you have to abuse children in your process. If that is your process, get a different process, or you don't get to be around children. That's it, you know? And these are the people who get plea deals, who get to stand up there and say these diluted, really delusional things about like, oh, I see the bigger picture. God put me here for a reason. So now I can end the cycle of negativity. Like, are you joking? Like, you ruin these children, right? She said that she hopes that they get the healing that they need. They're never going to recover from this. Who could possibly recover from something like this?
I just listen, it's probably unfair because I've never been a prosecutor. Perhaps they did want to spare the children, some with special needs.
Mm.
But I think a lot of times, too, they want to spare the system. If we just get a conviction, even if it's a plea, 15 years, this needs to see the light of day. And sure, we're doing the story, of course. You can count on Indisputable with Dr. Ritchie to follow through. But I think sometimes society needs to see this through. And that's not a deal that's done under the cover of night. How did you get there? What's the back and forth? I think it needs to be adjudicated in front of the world so that all can see. You know, just like the previous case where we had a Black man wrongly convicted, did not commit that murder. Things need to be aired out fully so that people who deserve to be held accountable are, and people who deserve to be left the hell alone can be. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We are covering it here on this program, but this is not like a national headline, right? My phone hasn't been blowing up with like the New York Times reporting it on Instagram or whatever. This is not a very big story, but if people are really serious about protecting the children, why isn't there more outrage about something like this? This is a crazy story. And the more you hear the details of it, the crazier it gets, right? And it's just like, I use that word crazy because it's so almost, you can't wrap your head around doing something like that to children and then not necessarily even feeling remorse about it. She says, oh, this was my journey. Like I was here because God
God.
wanted me to be here. And now I can do better stuff now after all of this damage that I've committed very selfishly. I don't know why she did it, but she seems to think that she had a bigger purpose in doing so. After doing all these things, now she can say, oh, well, now I'm better.
Yeah.
That's not remorse. That's not an apology. That's not
Yeah.
like, I can't imagine living with myself
No,
having done, not that I would. Yeah, I can't even get
it's
into the frame
nutty.
of mind. It's
It's
crazy.
stupid. It's like I made a New Year's resolution last year to stop eating fast food and do hot yoga. It only lasted 2 days. And I'm not better for that. Okay. Stop the madness.
Yeah.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I think too, and again, maybe there's some other stipulations that were not in the news. I want everything you got. If they have a home, it needs to go to the benefit of the children. If they have money in their bank, that needs to be part of the reparations, if you will. Not that you could ever make amends. This is Indisputable, the wonderful, talented, brilliant, and then I'll put beautiful last. Okay, because I think people lead with beautiful with you, and you are, but there's so many other qualities that are just outstanding. Yasmin Aaliyah Khan,
Thank you
I
very much.
just adore
You always
you.
make me blush, Sharon.
Well, that's okay. You look good too with little rosy cheeks.
Thank you.
This is Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Doc has the day off. Much more to come. Welcome back to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Yasmin Aaliyah Khan is our special guest co-host today. I'm Sharon Reed. And thank you for supporting, for tuning in, for your generosity. Let's get to some of your comments. PYT members first. Valerie Vaughn says, good afternoon, Sharon and Yaz. Hello, Valerie. How are you? Welcome. About the couple sentenced for torturing their adopted sons, keeping them in a dungeon, doing incredibly horrific things. Andrew Martinez says people want to stop gay couples from adopting kids, but will allow monsters like this to adopt multiple children. And I think that's an excellent point. Let's focus on real things. I would think that if you have this kind of opportunity that you're afforded to adopt again and again and again and again and again, that there would be some kind of in-depth investigation, a red flag, a surprise visit, perhaps, undercover detective, something before we allow you to keep adopting, particularly if you found out after all this that the kids said some things were happening in school and were found rummaging through the trash. Somebody could have told you that if you went to the school, I would think. So I agree with you, Andrew. About the black man who spent 16 years in prison. YouTube, Librio says false conviction should come with a minimum of $3 million per year being falsely imprisoned. And not that money can make up for things, but remember what a lot of these legislatures have done. At the same time, they know this exists, people wrongly convicted. They then put caps, some ridiculous sum per year if you're, what is that about? It keeps people from being held accountable, except for maybe taxpayers, but at a lesser value. And it keeps this kind of nonsense going. No real consequence. The couple sentenced for torturing the adopted children in the dungeon, Devil Dog Dragon, says, this is coming from the same group of people who say protect the children, but behind the scene, they are destroying them. They don't talk about God, okay? That's what the mother, the convicted, facing 13 years, talking about God. God ain't got nothing to do with this. Amelia Adams says, OMG, looking at the face of evil in 15 years, that's the husband. 1 year less than the earlier story where Mr. Days was incorrectly incarcerated. Yep, although I'd probably use a different word than incorrectly. It was by design. New YouTube members, welcome. Tyler Hackner, member for 27 months. We appreciate you. I feel like things will get worse before they have any chance of getting better, but I'm glad to be here with you all even in this time. So thank you, Tyler and Ms. Darden. Welcome to Indisputable. Appreciate y'all. Hope you'll continue to watch and comment. Let's give you this next one. He has the best hair and perhaps a future as a male model. Okay, that guy. It was hard to believe that he was prime minister of a country with those looks. People raved about him. I don't even know if I think he's that cute, but that's what everyone says. So I'll go along with it. Justin Trudeau resigning as Canada's prime minister. Look at this.
So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
So there you have it. Kind of sounded like he was trying to be a little sexy, but maybe it was just cold and his voice was slightly raspy. Maybe that's just my imagination. I don't know. More on the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announcing his resignation as Liberal Party leader comes at the end of 9 years in office, wake of Trump's tariff threats, mocking Canada as the 51st United State. Trudeau added this country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I am happy to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. Party infighting broke out following Trudeau's response to Trump threats to introduce a blanket 25% tariff on Canadian imports upon taking office January 20th. The Independent with some of the details here. On Monday, Trump took another jab on Truth Social and said that, quote, many people in Canada love being the 51st state. Well, I bet he doesn't even have one Canadian friend who said that, but that never stopped him before. He's made it up, clearly. Okay. Why would they want to enter this nonsense? That's what I say. What do you make of the timing? Do you think that it has become so difficult? We know what Canada has gone through, like many other democracies. It's just a new world order, it feels like. What do you make of the timing? And do you think that Trump was the final nail that drove him out of this thing called politics?
It doesn't matter whether or not Trump was the final nail. He is going to take credit for the Canadian Prime Minister stepping down, right? I feel like Trudeau was on his way out long before this. And yeah, I do think that there is a shift in whatever world order we were used to versus what we're about to start seeing. It's very scary, I think. I think that we are seeing a lot more right-wingedness around the world, not just here in this country or on this continent, but over in Europe and around the world. And it's a little hard to deal with, right, emotionally, and it's very scary looking forward into the future. It's just the future that we're going to have to deal with one way or another. We see people like Elon Musk, who is interfering in our US government. He is talking about Canadian politics. He's interfering in the UK. People in Europe are looking out for him. He has a close personal relationship with Putin, various other world leaders. There's a lot of tech leaders who are going to start influencing our lives. So the world of politics is expanding beyond what we were used to, right? The world of politics used to be one thing. Then you would have like maybe the millionaires, billionaires, the upper classes who were influencing certain things, but it wasn't always seen as they had a direct influence on the world and on policy, that kind of thing. A lot of that is starting to shift right now. We're going into 2025. It is going to be, in my opinion, a different world from the world that we're used to. And maybe it'll be for the better. I don't know. Maybe long term, it'll have some kind of positive effects, but I think it is going to be very rough for at least the coming year. Not to be pessimistic about the new year or anything like that, but it's just a trend that we have been seeing. And Trudeau did cite a lot of infighting within his party, which, to be fair, was triggered at least to a degree by Trump's rhetoric. But he said the infighting was actually to blame for his stepping down. And yeah, I get that, right? I can't speak for Trudeau's motives behind why he first decided to run to be Canada's prime minister. At the time, if anyone can recall, he was seen as a Nepo prime minister. And I can't speak for how he felt about the job while he was in it. But I will say that there are generally two reasons why people get involved in politics. The first is because they want to help heal their communities, their country, or even the world. And the second reason is because they want to be in a position of power for various different selfish reasons. But either way, once you get into office, and plenty of elected officials have spoken about this, they're met with lobbyists and bureaucracy and, yes, infighting, all of which can impede progress. And then on top of that, now somebody like Justin Trudeau has to deal again with somebody like Donald Trump. And this time he's threatening to annex his entire country. So
I think he woke up one day, looked in the mirror and said, I'll be an elite model. And I don't need this. Okay, I'll make more money.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who want to help their communities look at the world of politics and say, that is one path that one could take if they want to make things better. The idea is to get in on the inside, get into elected office, and make something good happen from that position. And other people look at it and say, you know what, I can do a lot more from the outside without having to deal with all of that stuff. So I don't think we're not going to see any more Justin Trudeau going forward. He's still actively tweeting and making statements about politics, specifically regarding Canada, obviously. But I don't blame people for not wanting to be involved in whatever political show we are in right.
They did it for the show. It's theater. It's, WWE style. That's what Trump wants. Boris, who left over the UK. This is what these people thrive on. They love it. And I think you're right. Decent, or not even decent, just whatever normal is. They are driven out because it's just so toxic. So you just leave. And that's the danger of people like Trump. There's people who say, count me out. And then they don't go back on it like Lindsey Graham did. This is too much for me. And I'm done. And then they go on to the private sector. We'll see what Justin Trudeau and that gorgeous head of hair he does next. Not that it's all about looks, but people did comment on it. All right. People who seem to be on the come up, and they'll really be doing great come January 20th when a new president is sworn in, what's old is new again, are Karens. They're on the come up. They're loud. They're proud. They're doing and living their best lives because, after all, it's all about them. And they don't care about your discomfort, your values. They don't care anything about it. And now they have a leader who wants them to be unapologetically even bolder. Okay. And for the rest of us, it just leaves us with that statement. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
You're serious, right?
Yeah, I'm serious.
So I'm taking a break. We're allowed to have breaks.
Okay, can I get my package so I can go do my shit I gotta do?
I'm going to get you your package, but I'm on my break. And in California, we're allowed to take breaks. Do you take breaks at your job?
I don't take breaks.
Are you legally allowed to?
That's why I'm not an Amazon driver.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, can I have my package? I'll be on my way.
I'm a dad too.
You can have another.
I'm a dad too. So I'm not going to say what I want to say to you. But man, I wish I could give you the runaround.
Wish you could too, bud.
Me too, buddy. You see, I'm in a uniform and I can't because I'm on the job.
That's fine. Can I have my package?
Yeah, when I'm done with my break, I'm going to deliver my packages. Thanks for the video.
That's a male Karen. Again, remember what I said before we launched into the video. Don't care anything about you. They don't respect your time. They don't respect your break. They don't respect that you're in uniform. They stalk, following this Amazon driver around, this male Karen, harassing the delivery man who was just trying to enjoy a break, as he mentioned he's legally entitled to in the state of California and perhaps elsewhere. And you wonder why they want to unionize. Because you have suckers like this who feel very entitled and actually wanted, I think, Yaz, to draw the driver out of character. The voice was pleasant. The driver said, I'm a dad, and you're not going to do this to me. What do you make of this? Because it's just, I'll tell you what the poster of the video wrote. Actual encounter I had with an Amazon customer 30 minutes ago. He decided to follow me around for 30 minutes and approaching me until I finally had to just leave my deliveries and go somewhere safe. That's, to me, that's not going too far. You never know who is crazy enough to hurt someone. And then this Karen says, I don't take breaks, like proudly, because that's the American way. You just work until you die. I don't believe it anyway, because he had 30 minutes to just follow this Amazon driver around. What do you make of the audacity of this Karenicity incident?
Yeah, it's not surprising, right? This is the world that we've built for ourselves, and it sucks, right? Like, first of all, congratulations to the Karens and their come up. It will be so much fun for the rest of us. This guy, you're right. What you call him? You called him a sucker, right? He is. This guy is a sucker, and he sucks, right? This guy, he saying he doesn't take breaks. That is not a flex. Like, get a life, dude. Also, you spend 30 minutes of your day following around an Amazon driver. Like, what was in the package? Did you need it that badly? Obviously not, because you were just like driving around for half an hour following somebody, baiting them into I don't know what. Some people really have very, very sad lives, is what it seems to me. It's like if I was expecting a package and it didn't come, I'd be like, maybe it'll come tomorrow. And then that would be it. You would move on with your life. You wouldn't follow around a stranger and threaten them. And he's right. The driver's absolutely right. You never know what people are capable of. You never know how violent they can be. You never know how angry they can get. And that's not a risk that anyone is willing to take, because it's simply just not worth it, especially not for an Amazon package. So, no one's trying to die over an Amazon package.
No, this driver and others need protection. And like you said, if your package, we've all been disappointed. It was supposed to come. We've all gotten the notices. Your package has been delayed. But this guy saying, because this guy's in a uniform, I own you. You're going to do what I say. And I'm a Prime member, probably a Prime member on Amazon. So that made it even worse. I think it's sick, and that Amazon should stand up for its workers. This man should be reported, this male Karen, and they say you're banned. You're banned from Amazon, and we give you back Prime membership. We don't want it.
There's no way Amazon would ever do that. They would never ban a customer for something like this, at least, and they would never stand up for their workers. We know that they would never do that.
It was a thought. Thank you for bringing me back down there. You're right. And I knew you were going to tell me that, but I just wanted to get it out there, okay?
It would be
nice. We support you, Mr. Amazon driver with a kind voice who said, I really want to do this, X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to do it. You're not about to call me out of my character. I'm a dad too. Sicko. And by the way, you used ER at the end of sucker, and it applies. But I once had this friend who I went to school with out of Oakland, and she would always say, sucker, okay? And that's when she really, that was so demeaning. Do you want to be called a sucker or a sucker? It's just the way she said it. That's why I called him that, because you are ridiculous. We'll move on. This word sucker applies to this next one too. What are you doing? And had the nerve to have a Bible in your hands. Talking about the GOP senator's husband who refused to shake hands with one VP Kamala Harris. And she just let it, she knew just how to respond, make you look dumb. We'll show you the video in case you haven't seen it.
In the middle, scoot over a little. No. It's okay, we're fine. We're gonna fight. Don't worry. Okay. Okay. Do you solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States? I do. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay, sure. Okay.
What a stiff. Can you imagine being married to that? Okay. Can you imagine having to put up with that? You can't even behave. You have to embarrass me on the job in front of everyone. Really? You've been doing this our whole marriage. I'm leaving you. I think I did. That's a repurposed speech from what I said. But she could have it. It applies here too. I wouldn't put up with it. She knew better than to invite him. I tell you, she knew what was going on here. Let's give you the details. Harris swearing in Senator Deb Fischer, Republican, as if we had to tell you that. Okay. For her third term, and it's still going viral, Harris then turned to Fisher's husband, Bruce, to shake his hand, which the senator's husband bluntly refused to do. Notably, Fisher's husband was holding a Bible in one hand, a cane in the other. One point during the exchange, Harris urged Bruce Fisher to move in closer to her, telling him, "She won't bite. I won't bite." He just looked so nasty, with a grayish hue to him. Writer Andrew Wegley attempted to explain the lack of handshake writing, not weighing in on Bruce Fisher's intent here, but what this video with 1.4 million views does not show is that he's holding a cane with the hand the vice president tried to shake. There's the explainer in chief again. There's certain people who just want to explain it away. If that were me, I would say, if that's what's really going on, wouldn't you just say, "I can't, thank you so much." You know, he wouldn't even make eye contact with her. So spare me, Mr. Wegley. Nice try. Ha ha. That's not what went down here. Okay. Not weighing in on his intent, and then you weighed in on his intent. Oh, he had a cane, and okay. We're lucky he didn't take the cane and rat-a-tat-tat upside her head, because that's the vibe he was giving off. However, Reese Colbert would counter with, "Nah, we're not doing this." His wife literally takes the Bible from his hand. "Thank you." As VP extends her hand, and he puts his hand in his pocket instead of extending it to VP. Y'all love to gaslight and play the misunderstood card. Trump doesn't mean what he says. Don't go by what he says, go by what he does. Like spurring an insurrection? It's the same thing here. We don't need you to keep explaining this stuff. Misunderstood card. She goes on to say, "Stand on it. This is how y'all brethren act." I agree with Reese. I suspect you will too, yes, but I want to hear from you. But it's not just the act. We're used to it from this kind of person, right? It's just she's so dirty and grimy. He doesn't want to get too close. What was going to rub off? Joy? Didn't work in the campaign, but is that what he thought, that the joy would rub off? Okay. The "excuse me, I'm speaking" would rub off. What was going to rub off? Okay. That's how come I know, being a Black woman for so long, that it was about something else. Mr. Gray Hugh, what say you?
Okay, as soon as you mentioned the Bible, I knew which story we were about to talk about. Yeah. Look, nobody wants to speculate about this man's motives, right? But like the guy in the tweet, we're going to do it, right? Like it could have been racist. It could have been sexist. It could have been that he doesn't like her because she tried to take on Trump, right? God forbid somebody try to take him on. But whatever the reason for why this happened, this old man is so sad and so petty that he is embarrassing himself. And I would imagine he embarrassed his wife a little bit, who is newly in Congress now. Whether or not he feels embarrassed is another thing, but he is sad. How are you still so old and so childish, sir? And why does that kind of behavior make him feel remotely better than anyone? I've always said that anybody who has like that level of prejudice against people, whatever the prejudice is unintelligent. I think you have to be very stupid and like just not all there to hold, racist beliefs or sexist beliefs or whatever kind of like prejudice you're having against somebody to behave like that. You're childish and not smart to me. And Kamala Harris, she isn't even offended in that video. She is laughing at him. She's laughing at him. It's too much joy. Yeah.
It's too much joy. But she owned him in that moment. Her very presence, she didn't even have to say anything, bothered him so much that he could not comport himself. And here's the other dippy thing. If he can't stomach her this much, he didn't have to show up for this. Somebody else in the family could have done it, one of their kids, a friend. But I
probably thought he was like doing something when he was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to stiff her. I'm not going to.
Watch what I do.
Hard. Watch what I'm about to do.
Right. You're right. My daughter says he thought he ate. Yes, that's what the kids are saying. But here's the thing. I picture it being so difficult to be married to this stiff. And I don't have a right to speak on their marriage, but I just picture him retiring after Jeopardy each night, sitting in a tattered tweed, broken, squeaky rocker that people have to listen to, and digging in his teeth and clipping his nails even in the open with debris flying all over the place. That's what I picture it's like to live with someone like this, a real stiff who's full of intolerance.
So maybe he did Kamala Harris a favor by not shaking her hand, if it's like the same hand that he's digging his teeth with and clipping his toenails with,
It's just maybe my thought. That's right. It's my opinion. Don't blame this incredible network. Don't blame TYT.
Don't blame me.
This is my opinion. No, you're fine. I'd probably go too far, but I'm telling you, I know the type. Okay, and I'm not trying to make everything personal about people I kicked out of my house in life before. Just one. But I'm telling you, it all fits. You're not like, it's not a compartmental thing where you're over here, he did this to Vice President Harris, and everybody else would say, oh, I think he's wonderful. He's never like that. Everybody knows someone like this. This is Indisputable. Sharon Reed in for Dr. Richie today alongside the wonderful Yasmin Aaliyah Khan. Oh, and before we go to break, our special guest co-host, tell us what you're up to these days because your videos are on fire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you. So I've been doing my Rebel HQ videos. Those are still going. You can catch me on a lot of the different shows. I'm on the TYT main show, usually on Fridays. You can catch me there. My podcast is, it's been on hiatus for most of last year while I was planning my wedding. But the wedding is over now, so hopefully
bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah, we'll see.
And listen, we're gonna go to break, but when we come back at some point, when you and I were on the main show, what was it, last week or so?
Yeah.
Who knew? I had to lean in and say, who are you? You've had so many interesting jobs and degrees, and I'd like you to run them down for people at some point because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah,
so let's take a quick break. And then at some point, if you don't mind, Yaz, this is why I say, this is wonderful and one of a kind, but it's everything else that makes you so interesting. This is Indisputable. Sharon Reed alongside Yasmin Aaliyah Khan. We're right back. This is Indisputable. I know you're expecting Dr. Richie. He's earned the day off, but we have a treat for you. Yasmin Aaliyah Khan is joining us as our special guest co-host. Always so thoughtful. I'm Sharon Reed. Yas, before I get to some comments from our wonderful TYT community, I teased before the break that you and I did a show recently, and I always thought you were brilliant. But how many experiences, jobs have you had that are just epic? Can you please run them down?
I don't know. Like, I feel like my life is very, very ordinary and, chill. But I feel like whenever I say certain things to people, they're like, what? But
you're just,
I did the safe path, right? I decided that I was going to work in marketing out of school. I got an English degree with the intention of going on to graduate school. And then I got an MBA with a focus in marketing.
Oh, why not?
I did do that. I was working in marketing for a while, and I was like, I don't know how to say this, but I was like very depressed working there because it just like sucked the life out of you. It's like, I can't go to work every day and just like try to make money for this random person. And it was while I was working that job that I started a blog, and that's where JR Jackson found me. And now I'm here. And
thank you, JR.
very, very strange trajectory that I've been on. And
No,
yeah, my
I think it's
first birthday in
perfect.
Apple was while I was in school. Yeah.
Right. And you saw some things back then. You told us,
Good.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm
And
grateful to JR
all those
for finding you.
experiences. Yeah. Yeah. And
You
JR
know?
discovered me. Oh, that's what I tell him. He doesn't like that I say that, but I mean,
Well, hey, he helped bring you to the rest of us, and we're very grateful. Maybe you can wear a USC cap or something one day to honor him. You don't
in
have
honor
to.
of JR Jackson.
Yeah, you don't have to, okay? But he's so committed. We love JR. We love you. All right, let's get to some of these comments. TYT members first about the Vice President Harris being snubbed by somebody who said, I'm just the husband holding a Bible and I can't even get too close to her. John and Mary say 6 years ago, he was all over Pence to shake his hand. Yeah, you were all over that. Vice President Pence, who had that fly land on his head, suddenly he's just wonderful. You can't get enough of it. So we're just saying, what changed? About the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau resigning. A lot of you have this to say. Cyber Gothica says Justin resignation will make Trump talk a lot of you know what and feel like he was responsible. Yeah, that's what Yaz said. That's what he's going to do. Okay. The instructor says Justin Trudeau don't have the stomach or just cowering to deal with Trump. He like time to pull the ripcord. Well, that could be it too. But then I think Lily's mama is checking all of us, perhaps saying 2025 is an election year in Canada. Trudeau resigning is to give his party the best chance when we go to the polls. Imagine the ego to think the USA has anything to do with our elections. LOL. Okay, touche. You're probably right. But Trump's still going to say it. About the Karen, David Morris, Sharon's lead-ins to I wish a Karen would are epic. Well, thank you, David. I don't know what I'm saying half the time. It's coming out. And then it's just naturally, there's like a switch that goes off and I throw it. So I don't know if it makes sense, but an epic could mean several things. It's not that you like it. It just could mean, what is she saying now? I don't know, but thank you for your comment. The instructor is back about the Karen. Is your car the delivering address? The Amazon driver's taking a 30-minute break. Do you mind, sir? Do you mind, sir, Karen? No. He doesn't want to deliver the package right now. Have some respect. Stop stalking him. Early Bird 42. Male Karen clearly really wants that new hood he ordered. It's probably white or maybe off-white. Maybe even beige. I think I've seen them beige in some older movies, these hoods. Tyler Hackner says, well, thank you. We want to thank you for being a member, Tyler. That's what we say. Twitch real quick. We'll give you a few more. Sharon seems like such a sweet person to work with. When I've had my coffee or chai, I'm addicted to chai. If I haven't had it, my energy is low. And I don't know, you'll have to ask the team. I won't assess myself, okay? I just thank them for their kindness. The wedding happened. Congrats, yes.
Thank you very much.
That's what a mega Shenron dragon has to say. People love you.
Thank you. Yeah, the wedding was beautiful. It was great. It happened back in November. There's a few pictures on my Instagram, but I haven't posted
Beautiful.
it.
Yeah, I came across those. It was impeccable. It was gorgeous, like out of a magazine. So congrats again. All right, now let's get to this one. I was saying to Yaz in the break and the team here that sometimes with the stories we do, it seems like there's only one question on the application when you seek to become law enforcement. Do you like to do crazy? And this is why I say it. Look at this one. Cops fire 15 times at a man after detaining him for, this had to be serious, jaywalking. What are you doing? And why? Here's video of the fatal police encounter.
I'm gonna you up. You're gonna get tased, bro. I'm gonna tase you. Hit the on the ground. Get up there, get up there, get up there. He has a gun.
Shots fired, Rector and John Wilford, code 3 on the morning. 350 the officers okay?
Now, here's what I want you to focus on. Detained for jaywalking. We can get into the other details, but this is what we're doing in San Antonio. San Antonio police officer detained a man for jaywalking last month before chasing him on foot after the man ran away, shooting at him 15 times during the pursuit. But police say Jeffrey Shop died from a self-inflicted gunshot to the head. Incident took place December 3rd when San Antonio police officer James Lopez was driving his patrol car and spotted a man with a backpack going across the street without using a crosswalk, which is a Class C misdemeanor in Texas, punishable by up to a $200 fine. Atlanta Black Star with the update here. Lopez pulled his car over, stepped out, ordering the 33-year-old man to walk toward him and stand in front of his patrol car. "I'm not doing all that, man," Shop responded as he sat on a railing. "Am I under arrest?" "You're detained right now. Walk over there," Lopez said. "For what?" Shop asked. "For crossing the street without a crosswalk. Go walk over there," the cop responded. "I apologize, sir," said Shop. But Lopez began raising his voice, expressing annoyance toward the man. Doesn't look like there's a lot of people on this street. I'm not saying that he should be jaywalking, but shouldn't common sense prevail here? "I ain't looking for an apology," the cop said. "Come over here right now before I put you in handcuffs." There it is. Shop continued apologizing, telling the cop that I had to get to the hospital. But the cop was insistent that he walk towards him. "I ain't listening to S," Lopez said. "Come here, come over here now." That was when Shop dropped his backpack and ran across the street into a parking garage, with Lopez pursuing him. He was joined by other cops who were also pursuing Shop. They got time for this. One point during the pursuit, Shop ended up in a drainage ditch with the cops close behind, but Shop tried to run away under a bridge over the ditch, apparently pulling out a gun, which is when Lopez fired 12 times. The other cops can be heard yelling, "Drop the gun," but it does not appear as if they fired their guns. But Lopez fired an additional 3 times after replacing the magazine in the gun, which is when Shop fell to the ground. San Antonio police initially said that Shop had fired at the officer and was killed after he was struck in the chest by a bullet. But now they're saying Shop had died from a self-inflicted gun wound, according to KENS5. Lopez, who has been with the San Antonio Police Department for 4 years, has been placed on paid administrative leave as the Bexar County District Attorney's Office investigates the shooting. Deadly encounter marked the 20th San Antonio Police Department officer-involved shooting in 2024, according to KENS5. San Antonio Police Lieutenant now, David Bacareza, said in a critical incident video providing details on the shooting that investigations into officer-involved shootings are comprehensive. They can take over a year. Well, what's so different about officer-involved shootings that they need to take more than a year? Are they more comprehensive, these investigations, than other shootings? I don't know what was going on with Shop, if he was troubled, had some kind of mental anguish he was experiencing, some kind of mental health issue. Maybe he was paranoid. You shoot at me 15 times and replace the magazine. Maybe he said, "I'd rather take my own life." I don't know. We don't want to make light of it. But I want you to comment on this, please, Yaz. It started with jaywalking, an apology and a pursuit, and then this guy Shop is dead.
Yeah. This is kind of like what we were talking about earlier as far as why people pursue positions of authority, right? Most cops that I've talked to at least will tell you that they became cops because they wanted to serve their communities, right? That is the answer that they give you. They will not say that they pursued that path because they wanted to wield forceful authority over people. They will not say that they pursued it because they got out of the military and found that they had no other marketable skills. And they will not say that they liked the high salary and the minimal education requirements. They will say that they wanted to serve and protect. But whether or not that's actually the reason why they became cops, these cops here in San Antonio, is this their definition of serving and protecting? This community is not safer than it was before this cop shot this guy, 15 times for jaywalking of all things. Which is more harmful to a community? Is it jaywalking or is it murder? Because I don't care that a cop did this. This isn't law enforcement. This is murder. And I'm not buying the excuse that the guy ran. You can no longer blame people for running from the cops, because we know what happens so often whenever cops get involved. This cop had his fragile ego hurt, and he had a gun in his hand, and that's all that this is. They want people to respect them, but they don't actually command a whole lot of respect. They will say that their own lives felt threatened without acknowledging how threatening they are to the public. They'll say that he killed himself without acknowledging that the cop did in fact fire several shots at this guy. And Sharon, you said you didn't want to make light of it, and I don't want to either, but I will say, there was an episode of Rocco's Modern Life on Nickelodeon that I saw when I was a child where Heifer, Rocco's best friend, became a cop, and the power immediately went to his head. He wrote up his best friend Rocco for jaywalking across an empty street. And even back then, we all knew that that was ridiculous. It was a kid show, and we knew it was ridiculous. And I'm sorry that that's the first thing that came to my mind, but it was like these things
Even
that we all see are silly, and we're supposed to act like this is real life.
Even a child can learn this lesson on Nickelodeon. And I don't know another industry, profession where, in our profession, journalists, commentators, we're critical of other journalists and commentators. We call it as we see fit. And oftentimes you agree, but you're free to disagree. When, Milli Vanilli was lip syncing, did the rest of the music industry come to their defense and say, nothing to see here, their lips were moving? No. They said, whoa, we don't want anything to do with you. You're not really making music. This is false. But when it comes to police, you don't have anything else to say than, Lieutenant, something about this is going to take more than a year. That's your way of signaling to people, stop paying attention. We're going to wait till you move on to another matter, and then we're going to sweep this under the rug. And this guy who decided to get out of his patrol car and say, get over here for jaywalking, he'll be back. And the community will not only not be safer, it'll be worse than that, because these are people who don't have good judgment. They don't have good judgment. He should have accepted the apology. There's no crime that he knew of. We don't know if the gun was registered or not, but he wouldn't have seen the gun. The guy said, I'm sorry for jaywalking on this non-busy street. Something about I have to get to the hospital. Leave it alone. And maybe somebody's not pushing up daisies. I'll give you the last word.